Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Frenzy Extra. I'm Andy Lacombe. We're coming to you from a beautiful day in Fiskdale, Massachusetts, in the town of Sturbridge. That's where Tantasqua Regional High School is, and that's where the Warriors are getting set for a big showdown with the Northbridge Rams, the undefeated Northbridge Rams, on Friday night. More on that matchup in just a little bit. First, let's recap our game of the week, Shrewsbury and Westboro. An outstanding victory for the Shrewsbury Colonials and a badly needed win for Shrewsbury, who looks to build some momentum going forward. This is a good win for you guys, playing Westboro, a team you guys know pretty well, play every year, and you get your second win in the season. How big a deal was this win for your team?
We needed this win. This win was a good win to get us rolling, so this definitely helped us going into next week where we're going down to Dorfield and playing Leominster. At halftime, we thought that this wasn't our game because it was way too close. We came in expecting to win big, so third quarter adjustments helped, and we came out with the win.
Definitely a huge win. We came in here 1-4. Tough losses in the past. Had a nice win over Shepherd Hill. We knew we had to win this game. We came out, executed, and we came out on top. We heard it from Coach in the locker room at halftime, and he's just telling us that this is unacceptable. Like we have so much potential. We worked too hard to lose all the games we have so far, and we just knew we had to come out and get the job done. That's what we did.
Next week, Leominster. What do you need to do to be successful and pull a win out there and maybe change things up in your division?
I'm treating it just like any other game. I don't really care who we play. I don't care if it's Leominster. I don't care if it's Westboro. I don't care if St. John's. I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. We have to work hard, come together as a team, and go up to Doyle, hostile environment, but that's all right. Get the job done.
Well, we know they're going to become big and physical. They're good. They got a good quarterback, good receivers. They're athletic, but we'll be ready for them.
Well, in the Blackstone Valley, there are a couple of teams piling up wins. We're talking about Uxbridge this time. They have 5 wins now, 5-1, and coming off a big one over Leicester this past week. The Spartans are gearing up to make a playoff run in Division 5.
Yeah, it was a big win. Last time we played there, they beat us in a tough one, and it was a great team win, and we got to improve.
It was very important. It gave a lot of confidence to our teammates and all aspects of the game. Keys were defense and keeping our composure. I thought we executed well on offense, and then we had a lot of momentum and a lot of motion that we showed.
That was a big win. Locked up the Swickle championship, but we want to get outright Swickle champions over Millbury. Got to take every opponent as seriously as possible.
This year as seniors, we really want to finish. I mean, obviously last year we lost in the district finals, and it was a tough one. It kind of motivated us throughout the offseason. We just want to get back there and see what we can do.
We got to win every single game until that point. We're focusing on one game at a time. Our next opponent is Millbury, so we're looking to get better against them.
And we're a 5-1 team, but we can get a lot better.
Back here at Tantasqua, the Warriors are coming off a big win over Doherty in Division 4. Big boost for their playoff chances in the division. And so Tantasqua now gets set for another challenge as they take on the undefeated Northbridge Rams.
We played good teams in SPM and Doherty, and I think it's just another week like that. We're just preparing to play big games and to have success. Doherty was a great win, great opponent for us, and Northbridge is going to be the biggest test we have on our regular season schedule all year. So it's just a fantastic opportunity for us.
This summer we spent a lot of time working out, just improving overall. We're a lot stronger, a lot faster, and we feel that we see that when we play teams this year.
Our depth is a big thing. We don't really get gas in the second half. We've been training over the summer, and I think that really shows.
In order to beat a team like Northbridge, you have to do everything well. So we're just going to go over what we do every week, perfect it, at least try and perfect it, and we're just going to have a nice, hard week of practice.
We're trying to take one game at a time, but we plan to get into the playoffs, execute everything, and hopefully be in Foxborough.
And here now with the head coach of the Tantasqua Warriors, Joe Beveridge. And Coach, you guys are 5-1, off to a great start. You have Northbridge this week, which will be a great showdown. But first, talk a little bit about the season so far and how you guys have been able to get out and pile up some wins so far.
So far, the team has been very resilient. We've pointed out the other day that we've been down every game so far except for Bartlett, which was week 1. We've been behind. So the kids have shown a great job of being resilient, coming back, not getting their heads down or shoulders slumping when things aren't going well. It's been a true team effort. Last year we've talked about how we had a lot of really good athletes. A couple kids are playing college football right now for us. We weren't very deep, and we've shown our depth this year, where it's been a true team effort. It's not one or two guys carrying us. A lot of the offensive line has done a good job paving the way for our running game. Jordan's done a good job throwing to JJ. The defense has done a good job taking away some of the things that teams do best. So it's been a total team effort, and it started in the offseason with the weight room and getting these guys going and believing the fact that games are won in July and August, not on September and October.
This week you have a Northbridge team coming to your place. They're undefeated. They haven't given up a point this season, and a lot of people think they're one of the top teams in the area. What do you guys do to get ready for a test like that?
I would say until proven otherwise, they are the top team in the area. They've clearly shown that every week. And it's going to be a challenge, obviously. They're well coached. Nothing but respect for Coach LaChapelle and Coach Falconer and the rest of the staff there. And the guys play the right way. They play respectfully and hard, and they're very good on both sides of the ball, clearly. What we do is we do the best we can. We put a game plan in. We try and make it simple enough for the kids to execute so they're not getting confused. Northbridge throws a lot of formations and motions and puts different kids in different spots, so it can be very confusing for a defense to try and prepare for. So you try and put a simple system in that the kids can execute efficiently and do the best job you can.
Is this just another game, though, or is this a big game with all the other little side things like they haven't allowed points and things like that? Or is it just another game for you guys? Or how difficult is it to make it just another game?
I think to us, the coaches, it's just another game. If I were to really be honest, if we win or lose this game, it has little bearing on Division 4. It's a Division 5 opponent. It's a nice landmark to see where we are as a team. I think it would be kind of a nice feather in our cap if we were able to be the ones that scored the first points on them and held them under the 35, 40 points they're averaging. So kudos to us if we're able to accomplish those things. But at the same time, we don't want to make it too big where it's a make or break our season, because it's not. We've got another game to win next week, and we're fighting for home playoff berth in the first round of Division 4. So, we do want to do well, obviously. We want to kind of use this as a gauge to, get it constantly improving. From SPM to Doherty to them, we have 3 great teams in a row. But at the end of the day, to be honest, it's not making or breaking our season whether we win or lose against Northbridge.
Will resiliency be a factor? You said you were down in all those games. Obviously, Northbridge gets out on top of people really fast. You come back against Doherty. That was a huge win last week. Your kids are fighters. So how big a deal is that for you going in this week?
I think it's a huge deal. The Telegram and Gazette mentioned it. We had a father pass away that was really important to our program, and the kids amazingly were able to persevere through that and take on a good Doherty team and win. And we're trying to convince them that that can bring that attitude and resiliency that they showed against Doherty every week. It can't just be against Doherty and move on. If we go and lose these next couple of games, that effort was for naught. So we do hope that this resilient group stays humble, hungry, give good effort, and try and keep Mr. Robert in mind when they're playing out there this Friday.
Key games this week on the Friday Night Football Frenzy. We will be here on the reservation for Northbridge and Tantasqua. Should be a good one. Shrewsbury takes on Leominster, trying to build 2 wins in a row now for the Colonials. Algonquin is at Wachusett. That should be interesting. Uxbridge and Millbury go head-to-head, and then Westboro tries to get off the schneid against Shepherd Hill, who's rolling a little bit right now. Time for a quick break. When we come back, Jim Wilson is in studio with Kevin Shea, who's back to talk high school football and the big matchups both last week and coming up this week.
Welcome back, everyone. Kevin Shea with Jim Wilson, the high school, or the sports editor now of the Telegram Gazette. I'm still getting used to saying it, Home Team Magazine.
So am I.
A man who wears a lot of titles and a lot of hats. First, let's talk about the games last week, because what a week this was for football. Unbelievable games, and starting with the game up north, with the Leominster-Neshoba game. 2 unbelievable teams going head-to-head, and this game didn't disappoint going into overtime. Neshoba wins, and Leominster's decision, Dave Palazzi going for 2 in the win, not kicking it, and to go into a second overtime. I love the decision of going for 2 in the win. After you get a penalty, it's still going for 2. That's a tough decision.
Exactly.
But it shows a lot of confidence in his team.
Exactly. That's why there's no right decisions for him, because he'll be second-guessed either way. But if they get that screen pass and it goes in for 2, he's a genius, and he's getting carried off the field. It's like, Friday Night Lights, never buy a beer in Leominster again type of thing. But that's the thing.
I think he does anyway.
That's a very good point.
Just with what he's done in Leominster.
But, you can't fault it. It's such especially like we were talking about earlier, losing Derek Franks, having some confidence in that offense to say, don't, especially after the too many men on the field penalty.
Right.
So they can knock it back 5 yards. They're trying to get it from the 7. That's a big thing. Anybody else would say, okay, we'll just kick it. You have a great kicker.
Right.
So, I mean, to have that decision come back, we're still going to go it. We're still going for the win. Says a lot about the Leominster offense and what confidence Palazzi has, and also about how good Neshoba's defense is. Because who knows? He might have thought that they wouldn't be able to hold that offense in overtime.
Right.
Play for the win.
And Neshoba, certainly shows a lot in their victory, a lot in character. But I think also, and kind of just touched on it, Dave Palazzi showing a lot of confidence in his team and going for the win. You and I talked about it off camera. These are two teams that may meet again in the playoffs.
I hope they do.
They're both going to get in. We know that. They're two teams that are going to get into the playoffs. So it might be one of those deals, too, where Palazzi's sending a message to his team. Listen, I know we can win. I have the confidence in you. We're going for the W right now. Now, for what Neshoba, what it does for them, they've taken on all comers. They've beaten everyone. Now you win at Doyle Field, on the road, in overtime, in a game that was back and forth.
Homecoming.
Showed a lot of character.
It was Leominster's homecoming. Everything was good. That's exactly why I thought Leominster would sort of get the win here. I thought those little short passes and the athletes on Leominster would just wear down Neshoba. Of all things, I forgot about the fat kids. Neshoba, that line is phenomenal. They controlled everything. I mean, every week I say, okay, well, this is a week they sort of fall back to earth. Hasn't happened yet. Make some room. I'm ready to jump.
But you know what?
I have number
you can't
one.
even just call them fat kids because they move well. They run that wing tee, and so you gotta pull. You're pulling a lot of guards in the wing tee and tackles. Those kids move their feet pretty well.
Curtin's
they got
dangerous.
athletes up
They do,
front.
and they're showing it. Another week, another big test for them. They passed it with flying colors. It's a great win for them going into Doyle Field. That's one. I always have a toss-up thing. When in doubt, go with the home team. Neshoba wasn't scared at all. They came by with a huge win. Proved, and I jumped them over St. John's for number one on my poll.
And we'll get into the poll issue too in just a minute. But looking at another huge game last week, Northbridge and St. Peter Marion. Northbridge shuts out St. Peter Marion. They haven't given up a single point all season. They win 46-0. This was a statement game for this Northbridge team because it's against a team that, by their coach's own admission, is a team that's across the line is 270, 280. Real big offensive and defensive lines for St. Peter Marion. Couple big running backs. And this Northbridge team just took it to them. And again, playing man-to-man, you and I talked about it. If you're going to play man-to-man against Northbridge with no safety back, you can't do that. That's crazy.
I'm surprised Northbridge didn't call a timeout just to say what's going on. It was like a punt from the Patriots game.
Right.
It was like, okay, this is great. This is like a gift for them. They love it. They have so many athletic receivers. They would love to hit you because if you don't get them at one time, they still have 3 more times to get that deep ball.
Right, and they can spread it around too. It's not just 1 or 2 receivers on Northbridge. They have 5 guys that can beat you, and they have a quarterback in Kobe Schofer who has poise, has confidence in his line, and that line gave him time. And he was able to survey, look at his first receiver, second receiver, third receiver. He went through his progression of reads, had the time to do that, and he's got such a great arm and an accurate arm.
Right, exactly. And I think you said it right. It was this big statement game for Northbridge. They came in, they were proud of the fact they hadn't given them a touchdown yet, but if you looked under that first layer, the teams they played were I think they were 8-18 combined record of the teams they beat. So coming up against, even though St. Peter Marion is now 3-3, it's still a Division IV team. The team that likes to just bully people around, coming off a big win the week before against Tantasqua, whose Northbridge has this weekend.
Right.
So I think they wanted to come in and just make a statement. They did. They got 3 quick touchdowns right away. They asserted themselves. They played mistake-free football and really took it to St. Peter Marion. They haven't been handled like that in a while.
And the defense, I think, is a big story in this too. And we're always going to talk about the Northbridge offense because they put up such great points and they're so much fun to watch. And that's what you see on the highlights. You're not going to see on the highlights a pass broken up or a great tackle for a loss or a tackle at the line of scrimmage. But this Northbridge defense, what stands out to me is they all complement each other. The secondary complements the linebackers complement the D-line. They all work together cohesively as one great unit, and they have so many good players, but they fly to the football. They all do their jobs. One guy doesn't try to do everything.
Exactly. And I think that is showing the fruits of their labor right now. And it's become a point of pride. 6 games, no points against that schedule. It's impressive.
And we'll get into the poll later because it could be a new number 1 team. Willie and I will talk about who we have. Shepherd Hill and Fitchburg. Shepherd Hill, big win over Fitchburg on Friday. The Hill has now won 2 in a row. They beat Wachusett. They beat Fitchburg. We've talked about the fact that they're not going to make the playoffs. They are the best team in Division 4 that won't make the playoffs. But the Hill is really cranking it up right now, and they're playing good football.
Yeah.
This is the kind of football we've seen from them over the past 5 years.
They might want you to put the period on that sentence about best team in Division 4, period, because I think they've established themselves in playing a tough schedule, and they're just starting to gel. I think this is what they were hoping for if it was an 18 playoff like it was, because now they're hitting their stride. They played the metal. They got better in those losses, even though they were losses. They sort of found what kind of offense they are, what kind of defense they are, and now they're starting to see the results of it. Unfortunately, it's probably too late for the playoffs, but still, they're a fantastic team. I still had them. They never left my poll.
Right, and that's one of the things too, as you talk about as a football coach, you want to get better week to week to week, and that's what the Shepherd Hill team is doing. They're getting better each and every week, and they're showing it right now on every Friday night, every Saturday afternoon. This is a really strong team. St. John's, Wachusett, instant classic. Tim McCone called it, and he's right. Great comeback by St. John's, fourth quarter comeback to win this game with a field goal. It's one for the ages again, and these are two teams and two schools that have had some great battles. Put this one another chapter in the history books of those great games and great battles between these two squads.
And you knew it would come down to it. I didn't think this had the markings of a blowout either way. I thought it was a very black and blue football game, back and forth, showing what you got kind of thing. And now it's all pride stuff because they're trying to amass those points to sort of stay ahead of people in the polls, the power rankings rather, than come by and get a playoff spot. Wachusett now they're in trouble. They need to chase some wins fast.
All right, now looking at our poll, now we're going to get into some good debate stuff. And you and I talking about this and how we both kind of flip-flopped. What do you do? Who do you go with number one? Because Neshoba beats Leominster. Neshoba's undefeated. Northbridge has that great statement victory. They haven't given up a single point this season. St. John's, everyone's kind of forgotten about them. They haven't lost to a Central Mass team. Their only losses to Catholic Memorial. I'm going Northbridge, number one. They're number one in my poll, and that's because, okay, they beat some other Division 5 teams, Division 4 teams. They just beat a heavyweight, even though, as we said, even though St. Peter's record may not show it, they beat a heavyweight. They beat a team that's huge up front on the line with a couple big running backs, talented team, talented at the skill position, and Northbridge handled them, shut them out, and took it to them offensively.
And exactly, they have a tough schedule with Tantasqua coming up, so I think this is when it really starts. So you can't really hold it against them. You play who you play.
Right.
And I think Northbridge reminds me a lot of those Auburn teams from years back that said, oh, they're great, but they play such a light schedule. But you look at Northbridge could hang with any of those other teams in Central Mass. That's why I give Carl and those guys a hard time a lot with the poll because they sort of just go with the tide, with big wins and everything. I have no problem with Neshoba, St. John's, or Northbridge being number one in anybody's poll because I think those are three great teams. It just goes to show what kind of year we've had where there's not one dominant football team. Even Leominster, if Leominster raises that Division II Central Mass trophy at the end of the year, I'm not going to be surprised.
Right, and again, it goes to, if I could put my commissioner's hat on and be the ruler of the MIA and go to just an all Central Mass, my dream, all Central Mass, play through Thanksgiving and take the top 4 teams no matter what division and have a playoff at the end of the season. Northbridge would be in there.
Definitely.
And it would be awesome to see Northbridge in there, Neshoba in there, Leominster in there, St. John's in there. Those 4 teams right now are the top 4 teams in Central Mass. Really probably no argument. To see those 4 go head-to-head, it would be a great tournament. Great tournament. And Northbridge can play with any one of those teams.
It was funny. I did my poll today. I'm looking. I think I did 4 or 5 teams, and it was like a bunch of people I can just sort of flip-flop. I mean, there's the Dohertys, there's the Tantasquas, Marlboro is a very good team, but they're sort of in that middle class of those 4 juggernauts, I think. So I think having those, like I said, I think I have Neshoba number 1. I had St. John's number 2 because I've had St. John's number 2 all year since that Catholic Memorial loss. But I think those are great teams. I felt bad jumping St. John's, who really didn't do anything to lose. Like you said, they haven't lost to Central Mass all year.
No.
They beat a very good Wachusett team despite their record.
Right.
But I think, I just thought Neshoba beating Shepherd Hill, beating Leominster at their place, at Doyle, on homecoming, the way they did. Yep. I think that says a lot to them. That's why they got my vote. But I have no problem with people like you taking Northbridge
I take Northbridge, and I'll put Northbridge against any one of those teams in a one-game format or whatever, and take them just because of what they have, and which is the whole package. Their defense is stifling, shut out St. Peter Marion, and we've seen St. Peter Marion score on all these teams, but they get shut out, and then just offensively to take it to them 46 points. Against St. Peter Marion, it's
Like we were talking about off camera, it was more of I thought it would be like okay, maybe they hang some points on, but St. Peter Marion will get theirs.
Right.
It'll be 32-14,
right,
something like that.
42-14 game.
One of those kind of games. But Northbridge just served notice to the rest of the league. They're for real.
Yeah, and then there's been no doubt in Division 5, but really now in Central Mass. All right, looking at some of the games coming up this week, we have Northbridge and Tantasqua, and again, this is a huge game, but more than anything for me, defensively, the streak. Can they shut out a Tantasqua team that has J.J. Howland at receiver, a big, tall receiver who right now Tantasqua's been able to exploit matchups in other games and find a way to get him in the end zone?
That's what it comes. It's a lot. We were talking about the St. Peter Marion game the week before. It's like, well, they facing a very athletic team with against like P.J. Barry and those guys. How can they, Simonovich? What problems would they present? Obviously, none. I mean, they got their catches, but it wasn't anything backbreaking, and they didn't get in the end zone. I think looking at will Howland give them problems?
Right.
I mean, on paper, I think they would.
Right.
I think he's a headache for everybody coming out. The big tall receiver, Jordan Choquette is playing a phenomenal year so far. They have the knack of hitting the home run ball. They're very innovative. With what they do. But can they dent Northbridge? I mean, it's sad you're not playing for wins. You're playing for moral victories almost.
Right.
And I think Tantasqua coming off that loss 2 weeks ago to St. Peter Marion, righted the ship in a big way with a win over Dory last week. So they're playing confident right now.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Confidence is the key word with Tantasqua. They're coming with confidence in this game, and they're coming to win. I would look for Northbridge to take some of those talented linebackers that they have, put them out at the line on Howland and just jam him at the line. Try to make him work to get around them, to get off the line of scrimmage. And then you throw the timing off, and you got that talented defensive front that can get pressure on the quarterback and
make somebody else beat him. Right.
See how that goes. St. Peter Marion and Holy Name. This is a game that's a lot of bragging rights in this game. It also counts in terms of the power rankings and the playoff picture here, but this is a big game in terms of two diocese schools, two city schools, and bragging rights.
And Holy Name wants this game bad. Like I said, bragging rights is one thing, but they get this win, they get the power ranking points, they jump into the thick of the playoff race. Kevin Mentz is having a phenomenal year for him. He's a game breaker. I mean, he'll rip off. Look at last week against Algonquin. They try to do their best. I think he had a long touchdown run. He ran a kickback, set up another touchdown. He's just a problem for everybody. I'm sure a banged up St. Peter Marion team has him first and foremost on their mind.
Doherty and Grafton, another intriguing matchup. It's a good D4 matchup right now, two of the top teams in Division 4. How do you see this one? Because it's both physical. I mean, Doherty can throw the ball a little bit too, but the bread and butter of each team is to run the ball and to line up and play smash mouth football.
Yeah, O'Brien's going to come in there with his hard head on and try to get those big running. I think he's second in Central Mass, third in Central Mass in rushing. I think Vassar from Doherty is the same way. He's more athletic. If he gets the corner on you, forget about it. So I think that's going to be a great sort of basically nothing fancy. There's not going to be anything in terms of bounce passes or hook and ladder plays or anything. They come in and just car crashes for 45 minutes.
Old school football. Line it up head to head, and we'll find out who the tougher player was at the end of the day. All right, I love that game. We're out of time. It always goes so quickly. My thanks to Jim Wilson. We're back with more of the Frenzy Extra right after this.
In College Corner now, the Holy Cross Football Crusaders are looking to get back on track at home. They take on Lafayette this week. Lafayette comes in with just one win, but they're a tough Patriot League team. Now for Holy Cross, head coach Tom Gilmore putting aside another overtime defeat to Fordham to try to get ready for the Leopards.
I think a lot of Lafayette's early season struggles are revolving around their offensive line. They had a lot of early injuries, kind of like we had 3 years ago, and they've struggled to consistently run the ball and protect the quarterback. But now that some of these guys are getting some experience, they're doing a better job each week of doing that. They're still a little bit inconsistent, so they're not sustaining drives as much as they'd like to and not scoring points, and that's put their defense in a bad situation at times.
Well, the Crusaders are getting leadership, and they are getting tackles piling up from a sophomore in their linebacking core. We're talking about Nick McBeth. He has continued to impress week in and week out as he becomes a real leader on this defense.
Nick is an outstanding player first and foremost, but part of his abilities are in his high effort level. He just plays hard, almost with a reckless abandon in a way, and he's always around the ball. Whether it's a run or a pass, he's given great effort. He's not the biggest linebacker out there, but he's very fast. He's has very good reaction skills, so he's able to get to points in front of blockers and get the right leverage. or flat out beat them to the play. He's very good at dissecting plays and so on and getting himself in the right position and then being able to use his athletic ability to finish plays. So I think his effort, his intensity, his athletic ability is how he's able to get by being smaller for his position.
Holy Cross hosting Lafayette. See the game live on Charter TV3, channel 193 at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Staying in the college ranks, the Assumption Greyhounds are off to one of their best starts ever. 6-1, and the Hounds roll, and they just put up 60 points last week. Assumption goes back on the road to take on AIC this week, and they look to keep rolling as right now Assumption, one of those teams to beat in the NE10.
The outside noise stuff we try to stay away from a little bit, as far as the rankings, as far as all the other stuff that comes along with the territory. That's not something of interest to us, honestly, and mainly because there's nothing we can control about that. The only thing that we can control is what we can go out and take care of on a day-to-day basis. The one thing that we do have to pay attention to, though, in that rankings is the fact that other teams are now gunning for us a little bit differently than they might have in the past. And that's really the only acknowledgement that we pay to those rankings. All we really try to do is go about our business on a day-to-day basis.
To the Dean's List now, and how about old friend Dan Orlando out of Westboro, playing at Worcester State now. 8 tackles, 2 interceptions in a Lancer win over UMass Dartmouth. Connor Candido out of St. John's playing at Sacred Heart, 10 tackles, 3.5 tackles for a loss in a win against Cornell. Lamar Edmonds, who played his high school football at St. Peter Marion and has been a standout in the secondary for New Hampshire, 8 tackles in a loss at William and Mary. Joey Mispelli, former Nipmuc star at Westfield State, 9 tackles for the Owls in a win over Mass Maritime. Former teammate Derek Moore out of Nipmuc, also playing at Worcester State now, 2 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown in the win over UMass Dartmouth. And Pat Ricard, the former David Prouty star at Maine now, 7 tackles, including 1 tackle for a loss against Yale. All right, that'll do it. The foliage is turning here in Fiskdale, a beautiful setting which will be the site of a huge matchup on Friday night, Northbridge and Tantasqua. We will see you next week on the Frenzy Extra, but first, we hope to see you Friday on the Frenzy.